Hi, I am Kevin Quigley, and welcome to Tarot Off the Cuff. I picked up my first tarot deck in 1982 when I was 12 years old. I spent the summer giving readings to my friends and kind of freaking them out, and then I misplaced it. Maybe 15 years later, I picked up another tarot deck, and I've been reading professionally pretty much since then. Tarot reading for me is about building up a conversation. A conversation not just between myself and my client, but between our higher selves, so that we might bring down some information that might help make us a little bit more conscious and maybe even our lives a little bit better. Hello everybody, this is Kevin Quigley with Tarot Off the Cuff. The last video we released on Thursday of last week was our 100th video. Yay, milestone. So I decided that I'm going to mark both sides of this milestone, because the 101st to me feels like the more important milestone than the 100th, right? So there's a completion, and then there's getting something going again. I reached into my bag today, and I pulled out the Osho Zen Tarot. This used to be a major reading deck for me, and it is still one of the 3 or 4 decks that I have in my bag everywhere I go, but I haven't read with it all that often as of late. Sometimes people pick it and sometimes we go with something else. So I'm getting this randomized. I'm even going to do a quick riffle. Hopefully it won't be too loud. I'm working on a metal table right now. Try to do that quietly. And I'm going to take a second and I'll pull a card. Okay. So I pulled the 2 of Fire, which would be analogous to the 2 of Wands. And even though I am not a fan, I've said this before, I'm not a fan of the keywords at the bottom of the Osho Zen. Sometimes they feel like they overwhelm a reading, or a client might see them and it pushes them in a certain direction that we don't necessarily need to go. But I'm going to show you the keyword anyway, because it happens to be here and it caught my eye. So this is possibilities. How lovely is that? So while I've been talking and after I looked at the card, I'm thinking about a set of topics, and I've got a bunch, possibilities. I've got a bunch flying through my head. Okay, possibilities. Predictive readings. Between last Thursday's video and today's, I'm recording this on Monday, but you'll see it on Tuesday, I did a fair. Probably the last fair for a while, because it looks like the Delta variant is going to get masks back on everyone and all of that sort of stuff. But it was distanced, and I masked up for anybody that wanted masks on. I've been vaxxed for quite a while, and most of the people at the fair were also vaxxed. And in one case, it was somebody's first reading. I love doing readings for first readers, and they were... as I was giving them my sort of opening spiel, they were asking about future and prediction and whatnot, and I explained that I don't dig too deeply into predictive readings. I respect readers that do predictive readings, and I certainly believe it's possible, even for myself, if I look in that direction and pull cards, it works. But I have found, both within my own system and after checking in with, clients after a few days or weeks or months that I've done reading with, that I often discover that if I do a predictive reading, my client or myself puts their life sort of on hold until the thing happens, right? That thing they're hoping for, that thing they're expecting, maybe even the thing that they're fearing. And then they're not really staying fully conscious and in their life. They're not making decisions for themselves, and so on and so forth, right? So in terms of 2 of Wands, possibilities, looking towards the future, I actually find that can be a little bit dangerous. So I focus my practice on right now. What is your situation now? And we'll discover that most human beings, more often than not, some of us are somewhat connected to where we are correctly, and then others of us, through projection, through our own systems of hopes and fears and habits and things like that, actually don't know where we are. So what I've focused, like I've honed down my reading over the past few decades to, rather than talk so much about the future, I talk about right now. And then once that's really clearly understood, we can then functionally, in a functional, healthy way, talk about options, where we can go from here.
and what kinds of choices and decisions make the most sense to us for who we are, what we need and what we want, right? Okay, so that leads me to this idea of making decisions. And part of that picture is remaining flexible. A lot of times, if we do just sort of a linear approach to things, or let's consider the two options, right? That like you could take the job or you could not take the job. Or let's say there might even be more. There's three options. You could take job A, you could take job B, or you could wait for something better, right? You know, so these kinds of things come up in tarot readings all the time. One of the problems of this particular approach, which I should also say can be quite successful and useful, right, to take that, but be aware when you're doing it, right? One of its problems is that it doesn't account for the things that you're not aware of, or it doesn't take a super creative perspective on the situation, right? So, staying flexible for me during a tarot reading is, one, I want to recognize when I'm in a situation or in a moment where I am having a strong personal reaction, or a very super clear, like any moment where I look at the cards and go, oh, I know exactly what this is saying, right? And that happens a lot for me. As soon as that happens for me, I do my best to train myself to make sure, but what if it's not the best way to look at this? What if I'm wrong, right? That's possible. It's at least possible. And then look for some wiggle room, look for some fluidity and some flexibility in there. And in that case, I even suggest, and lots of tarot readers do this, and when I see it happen, I love it, is this idea of, what am I not seeing? And pull another card. Pull another card specifically to point out, what are we not getting? What are we not seeing? What possibility are we not seeing? What challenge maybe have we already dismissed and not realized that it may be a problem or maybe something we have to deal with? It could be what special skill or quality of the person I'm reading for do they have in their back pocket that would be useful in this situation that they don't realize they should capitalize on it, right? So drawing cards to take a look at the things you don't know is a perfect exercise for the tarot. It's something the tarot is almost designed to do, right? So in those moments where you notice that you think you got it all sewn up, that it all makes sense to you, that, oh, it's very, very clear what this choice needs to be, you might be right, but it's worth it if you have the time to like draw a couple of extra cards to say, what am I forgetting? What am I not seeing? Doing that allows you to look for other options, right? What are the other options that are floating around? This is super useful. So you can actually say, oh, and right now I've got a chainsaw going off. I like to work these things into my readings. So, okay, so let's just talk about flexibility. So oftentimes, if I'm doing a long form reading, I will ask my client to leave their phone on. I'll ask my client to pay attention to what they hear in the space, right? So during this reading, just now today, my neighbor has a horse that comes up to the fence every once in a while, especially when somebody's outside. So I heard the horse whinny. That probably didn't get picked up on my phone's mic. Right now, I've got a couple of cars that are driving past because I'm about a quarter of a mile away from a pretty major road, and the sound comes right up the hill from that. And right across the street, they're opening up their view, so there's some chainsaws operating, and you might be able to hear that on the phone. I interpret these symbolically, and it requires a certain amount of flexibility, of fluidity, to allow that external stimulus to like push itself in. So what's going on with the chainsaw? I'll just deal with that one so we don't take too long. So we've got an instrument that's used for cutting. It's powered, right? So these are gas-powered chainsaws. There's an engine in there. You've got to start the thing up. It requires a certain amount of skill to actually operate this thing, especially if you're bringing a tree down. In order to do that safely and properly, you really do need to know what you're doing. It requires safety. You've got to really bring that into case, right? So even though right now where I'm living, it's about 82 degrees and 100% humidity, it's hard breathing. The air is actually heavy, right? And probably want to be in shorts and a t-shirt, but not if you're going to be operating a chainsaw. You need, in fact, when I learned to operate a chainsaw many, many years ago, they had these amazing sort of like heavy, I think they might even had lead in them, like that. Well, maybe that's, I'm just thinking, like, you know, the X-ray type of things they put on you, super heavy things. So if that chainsaw bounces off of what you're cutting and comes back towards your body, you've got armor on, right? So we've got all of these things going on, and let's just talk about that in the context of this talk. So we're talking about protecting yourself with this armor. For me, staying flexible is a way to protect yourself. And I'm not talking about like against a dissatisfied client or anything like that. I'm just talking about protecting yourself so that you are approaching the task of giving someone counsel or advice with as much depth and clarity and compassion as you possibly can. So asking that question, are we forgetting anything? What are we forgetting? What should we be looking for, right? That's important. Asking the question of let's not get tied down to a particular line of events. Let's accept this idea that the future is a future of possibility, right? So these are some of the ways for that. It takes some skill. All of you know, because we've all started off learning tarot, and we probably all had the experience of reading for others or even reading for ourselves before our skill level was all that deep, right? So we're turning to guidebooks and reading up card definitions and things like that. In this case, depending on the situation, if you're just reading for yourself or whatnot, but if the stakes are high, working without skill can sometimes make things difficult or lead you to conclusions that, you know, now that you're more skilled, you might disagree with, right? So that's just part of the process, but keep that in mind. And then let's see, what's another one? Power. This idea that our words have power. This is one I don't think I've talked about in a long time, especially not in one of these videos, but about being really careful with what we say and how we say it. If you've got a client that's able to reflect back to you what they heard you say, super useful, right? So while you're doing a reading, you can say, could you repeat back to me the advice that you just heard coming out of these cards through my words? I want to make sure that we're on the same page. And sometimes you'll be surprised. Oh, I didn't mean that at all, right? And that's super useful to hear, and you can correct or shade yourself, or even ask, oh, interesting, that's not what I felt that I was saying. So how did you arrive at that conclusion? And maybe they found a better conclusion, which is cool, right? But checking in on that. Oh, and the last thing on this particular topic is the reason they're cutting the trees down is so they can see this amazing view. So if you look through the little trees that are over my shoulder here, you can really see for miles from where I am right now. I'm not exactly at the top of a hill, but I'm at the top of a slope that goes down behind me and up in front of me. And the view is amazing. I can see 2 valleys over 2 ridges from where I'm standing. And luckily, the place where I happen to be living right now, the people that owned the place before I moved here, cleared that view, so I can see the mist in the morning coming in. I get pretty amazing sunsets and things like that, so it's really lovely. So doing a tarot reading in and of itself is about increasing our clarity, maybe even the distance we can see forward, right? That even feels like a little bit of a predictive type of reading to contradict where I started. All right, do I have another topic floating around in this? I might. Ooh, okay, I got one more. I'll talk about this one and then I'll let you go. I've had this particular conversation in different contexts like 5 or 6 times in the past couple of months over the summer. This has come up a lot. And the picture is build a working prototype of whatever you're doing, whatever project you're working on, sooner rather than later. This is 2 of Wands, I remind you, right? So we're looking forward. In this card, we've got the eagle that's searching the ground as they're hunting, right? So they're looking, and the eagle is a bird that's got power. It's a bird that requires some caution around, right? I'm going back to the chainsaw, of course. It's a bird that's got amazing vision. That's what it's known for, right? It's a vision, it's eagle eye, that kind of a thing. And it's super mobile and flexible and fluid. It lives most of its life or a lot of its life in the air, dealing with air currents and making choices and changes based on what environmental things happen while it's up there. In fact, just yesterday I was talking with a pilot. She's a learning pilot, and she's learning to do gliders. She's moving from motorized aircraft to unpowered aircraft, and she said it's terrifying for her because with the propeller that's moving, she's got a sense of real control. A bird does have wings, so they do have a bit of power, but they also just have to deal with what's happening with the power of the currents of the air that's above them, and that is that's a dance. That requires a dance. So in this case, I've been talking about don't get stuck in the planning phase. It's so easy, and I see this with many, many projects that let's predict every problem that we might experience while we're doing this, and let's come up with contingency plans or ways to avoid experiencing those problems. That sounds intelligent, but what really turns out is lots of projects get bogged down because they're imagining problems all the time, and in fact, some of them even get stopped because a problem that they've imagined that they haven't experienced yet, that they've imagined, seems so big and so overwhelming that continuing just doesn't make any sense. So they bag the whole project. Everybody bails, right? That's awful. Instead, and business research backs this up, the companies that seem to do better at things, especially at innovation, are ones that prototype without so much problem solving, build it and make it happen. Why is that? There's a couple of reasons. One is that you can't predict all the problems. And in fact, many of the problems that you do predict don't get solved. One. Two, there are problems that arise and need solutions in the moment. And if you trust your capability of recognizing problems when they occur and dealing with them, your process from idea to like sellable product to finished product goes faster. It just happens much, much more quickly. In fact, Tarot Off the Cuff, I took this advice while we were putting this channel together. I had the idea, I was able to express it, and then I sat down and I built all of the structures that we need. So the little graphics on the side of the thing, the little logo and all of that stuff. I made those things as real as I possibly could, so that as I was letting other tarot readers know, hey, would you be interested in doing this with me? They could see it a little more clearly, right? So I actually had all the little training videos and things that I had made to communicate the idea, had the look and feel and the brand, the graphic brand of the Tarot Off the Cuff channel ready so that they could see that stuff. Now those things have changed. And in fact, the product changed. So there was a certain point, maybe 4 months in, where we reestablished and took a look. How's it going? Is it moving the way we want it to go? In what ways is it great? In what ways does it need to be fine-tuned? We did an enormous amount of fine-tuning. Some readers came in, some readers left. And then I made a whole new set of simple instructional videos that people could watch to say, how do I make a video that's exactly what we're looking for this channel? And I've found, even still, that that idea shows up in a different way for every single content creator that works on the channel. And if I was not being flexible in my Two of Wands sort of, let's take a look at things, right? If I was not being flexible, that could be really frustrating. If I am being flexible, I can say, oh, isn't that an interesting way to interpret this idea and bring it into the real world? So I'm choosing to go that way, and I'll say for a couple of ways. Keeps me really happy. It also keeps me from the urge to like micromanage and tell everybody what they need to do or what they're doing wrong, like those kinds of things I don't do, because the way this person makes that interpretation and creates some content, if it's useful, if it's good, if it's beautiful, if it's positive, it goes up. Simple as that, right? So I like this non-directed kind of way. Okay, so that was a lot of talk about this possibilities card, the Two of Wands or the Two of Fire, and this image is from the Osho Zen Tarot. I am Kevin Quigley. Thank you for joining us with Tarot Off the Cuff. Our next video will be up in a few days as well. We're making them all the time. We're talking about them. We laugh with each other. You know, the readers that work for this channel are great people. We really get along. So I'm so grateful for all of you, all of the readers that have come to produce content. I'm grateful for all of the viewers that have come to produce content. If you want to help this channel, but also if you want to help tarot on YouTube in particular, subscribe. When you subscribe to a tarot channel, the other tarot channels become much more likely to show up in your feed and other people's feeds. When you click thumbs up, addition, that also it really, really does affect the algorithm. So thank you so much. I've got the sun busting through the clouds right now. There is more light and clarity and vision coming through. Thank you so much on behalf of Tarot Off the Cuff. Hi, thanks for watching. This is Kevin Quigley with Tarot Off the Cuff. If you can take a second, click the subscribe button down below. That'll let you know when a new video is posted and you might want to jump over and watch it. If you hit the thumbs up for the videos that you really like, that will help spread the word so new people will find Tarot Off the Cuff in their feed, and that helps the channel grow. That would be great. And if you got a question or a comment, positive or negative, whether you agree or disagree, or if you want to add information or your own take on a particular card or a particular topic, put a comment down below. We would love to hear from you. Thanks so much.